Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. But more than that, welcome to Depthsember. That's right, we are doing Depthsember this month, which means we're going to be seeing a lot of your friend of mine, Dark Depths. I did this last year and it's very popular, and you know, I'm kind of known for playing MARIT LAGE'S decks, so we're leaning into it in a big way and we're going to be playing all sorts of weird and wonderful Dark Depths decks on the channel. But to kick off the month of great 2020 action, I thought we'd begin with the competitive build of Turbodepths that I am testing at the moment. So, for those who aren't familiar, Dark Depths makes a 2020. We copy it with a land, so we have a land that doesn't have any counters on, so it becomes a 2020, or we remove all the counters with Hexmage. So this is our combo, Dark Depths plus either of these two cards, and we find them with all of these tutors. We power it out quickly with Lotus Petals and Exploration. We disrupt our opponent with Hand Disruption. We protect our guys with these. Now, the exciting thing here is we're playing a new card today, Legolas's Quick Reflexes. Green, instant, split second, untap target creature. Until end of turn, it gains hexproof, reach, and whenever this creature becomes tapped, it deals damage equal to its powers up to one target creature. So this is just a card that says no to removal for a turn, and there's no real way of getting around it apart from like counterbalance or chalice type effects. But this is going to be another way that we can thwart removal. Now originally when I went to playing Explorations in this deck, it was because if you play this on turn 1, it accelerates you 2 land drops, which is more than a Spirit Guide can do. And also, accelerating yourself land drops is really important because we need to make actual land drops to win the game. It's not just mana, it's the actual land drops too. So we moved to these as well because this means that on turn 2, you could have Thespian Stage, Urborg, Dark Depths, and then a spare mana for a piece of interaction like Legolas's Quick Reflexes, which is kind of why I wanted to experiment with the Exploration, and I found it to be quite useful. So that's what we're doing today. We have some additional Legolas's Reflexes in the sideboard as well. So instead of trying to play the will use Life them alone to get around control decks by just grinding through all their removal until we can eventually stick a 2020, we're now just going up for more pieces of protection and trying that as a plan. A lot of the control decks that have all the white removal have been running as much as 3 surgical extractions lately, which means they tend to just extract your Dark Depths so you never get to rebuy it. So you only have one go anyway. So if we're only going to have one go at the combo, we need to try and make that stick by having some really good protection. I am running the Rainbow build at the moment because I just want the build that most reliably does our combo. And having all of our lands tapped for all the colours means that we can cast like Thoughtseizes into Crop Rotation or whatever, or we can cast Exploration into Hexmage. Our lands just tap for the right colours. So we're a little bit weaker against certain things post-board, but it just means that we're more reliable in doing our thing, and it's been pretty good so far. But because of that, it means our sideboard disruption, we basically don't beat Blood Moon unless we race it, which is something this deck can do relatively well, or we can discard it from their hand with 8 discard effects post-board. And the reason I'm running Sudden Shock is because Magus of the Moon is the most common Blood Moon effect. Sudden Shock will always kill it, so decks like Sneak and Show that sometimes have the Magus and Protect with counter magic, they don't get to do that anymore, so we can just Sudden Shock it and be done with it. And this also kills Opposition Agent, which can be a bit annoying for our tutors. It's not as bad against us as it is the green-black build, because that also has 4 fetches, but it's still not a thing we want to face, so Sudden Shock can deal with those problem permanents. As for that, the rest of the sideboard is pretty much as expected. We've got our Graveyard Hate, we've got Disruption, we've got Anti-Artifact Tech. And it's, like I said, instead of the Life from the Loans that I've been running, we're now running the Quick Reflexes to see how this goes. And yep, that's it for the deck tech. Let's get underway with Depthsember. Remember to like and subscribe, it really helps the channel out. And let's begin the festivities. If you're looking to play Legacy on MTGO like me, why not try Card Hoarder? They're a rental service that I personally use, and I found them better than other rental services that I've used in the past. So why not give them a try? Alright, so we're on the play for our first game. What does our hand achieve? We can protect against Wasteland. We can Sylvan Scrying. That's still not quite getting us there. We're going to need to find another land if we were to keep this hand. And we also have a kind of tension about what we're deploying first. I think we can do better than this. That's a bit slow and ugly. Let's mulligan. Okay, this is the best hand so far. We'll keep this. So we don't want to Crop Rotation, I don't think, here. Or do we? Crop Rotation just lets us go. So our turn 1 play is Gemstone Mine, Urborg, Duress our opponent. Sorry, Gemstone Mine, Exploration, Urborg, Duress our opponent. The Sylvan Scrying, I guess we don't know if we want the Sylvan Scrying or the crop rotation. We got to put 2 cards back, actually, haven't we? That's the other issue here. So I think we get rid of the crop rot. And if we keep the Exploration, we get to play the Exploration and then Duress, but then we need the Sylvan Scrying. So it means we probably have to throw back the Exploration here or the Duress. I think it's the Exploration. This means we're playing out the Urborg first, in case we draw Hexmage next turn. A swing and a miss. Alright, and we now know what we have to beat. It's death and taxes. So Field of Ruin can blow up our land, and Solitude can blow up our creature. Alright. There is a very nice basic plains. There is the Giver of Runes. I didn't know this was an old border. It's nice. Alright. Sylvan Scrying, you say. Let's go and get ourselves a Thespian stage. We'll pass a turn. So our opponent has Field of Ruin, which is 2 and tap. So this turn they can't have it active, but they can have it next turn. Which will mean they have Solitude and Field of Ruin available. Which is a lot. I think they attack here, yeah. We've very much shown ourselves up as what deck we are. And they know they don't need to keep this back for anything. The Hexmage is certainly interesting. Right, if we jam this Hexmage now. So we can play our Thespian stage, and we're just looking for something like a crop rotation, so we can protect our creature from the Solitude. Alternatively, Legolas' Swift Reflexes, or Not of This World. So we've got 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 draws that win us the game here, which is not bad. Alright, there is one of those 9 draws. Let's go attacks. No, that's a mistake. This will just give us... No, this is another target creature you control, right? So it can't give itself protection, so we are right to attack here. I don't want them to cast a Recruiter of the Guard and have an additional Solitude. Right, we'll take our 1 damage here. So we have to remove... If we go the other way around, but they can wait until this sacrifices, then blow this up in response, we don't get to use the Hexmage. So we have to make ourselves a 20/20 this way. And then they will Field of Ruin it. And then we will Thespian stage it. Alright, we have our 20/20. What would you like to do, opponent? And if they do Solitude this and somehow manage to get around our Not of This World with another piece of removal, we can then just rebuy the combo with Sylvan Scrying. 2 mana. Field of Ruin on the Thespian stage. Destroy... Okay, this is a mistake from our opponent, I believe. Because we can copy their basic, and then this ability fizzles because this will be a basic. A neat trick, you don't get to see that often. A Solitude. Pitching Recruiter of the Guard. Alright. You can resolve your Evoke trigger, and then we will counterspell your Solitude trigger. Go attacks. 20 to the dome, please. Alright. A classic Dark Depths inning there. So, for this matchup, we're going to want some protection from removal in the form of Legolas' Quick Reflexes. Our Duresses are less exciting to me here as well. Do we want Sudden Shocks? That is an interesting thing. And also, do we want Inquisition? Inquisition doesn't hit Solitude, so I don't think we want that. So, do we want Sudden Shocks? We want these protect against Wasteland, so we're definitely keeping those in. Bojuka Bog isn't necessary, so that gives us 1 Sudden Shock if we want it. And Boseiju is acceptable here. It does some stuff, so does the Ghost Quarter. I don't think we're trimming any of these. We're going to want the fast mana, I think, so that we can kind of execute our combo. I don't think there's anything else we want here, really. We could have an Inquisition over this Sudden Shock and just go up on discard effects. That's certainly reasonable. But I quite like Sudden Shock as another way of getting through blockers or some problematic creatures. People aren't really playing Peacekeeper these days, but that's certainly a card that I guess we can use. And then I think it says creatures can't attack, right? So we would need something like the Sudden Shock for that. What does our hand do? It's slow. And having our Mana Confluence here is going to be pretty bad news for us. But we do have 2 pieces of protection. I don't think we can keep this one. I think we need something... no green mana. Okay, we can keep this one. And 2 cards have got to go back. One of the Gemstone Mines. I like having the Thespian stage. I do like having Lotus Petal, so we can just do our thing on turn 2. So that means we're either getting rid of stage or mine here. Mine is our only access to green mana once the Scrying's done. Maybe that means we're supposed to get rid of the stage here. Yeah, this would have been a much better 6-card hand if we get to keep that stage. There is a nice basic plains from our opponent into an Ether Vial. Now this can be a problem for us if they stack it up to 3, and then Flicker Wisp becomes a problem, as does Skyclave Apparition. So we kind of want to win before then. Alright. Urborg, Lotus Petal, Sylvan Scrying. Let's go and get our Dark Depths. So next turn we do have the combo. I'd like to find a Knot of this World to go with it. That would be great. Like, maybe we have to wait until we draw some interaction or some protection or whatever, just so we don't get bopped. Alright, Rishdam Port. That's going to slow us down for a turn. Maybe gives us a chance to draw some disruption. Legolas's quick reflexes. Alright, that's an interesting one. We'll play that one out. Now the thing is, they can just keep tapping us down with Rishdam Port. Caracas. Okay, that is somewhat annoying. Another Ether Vial. Sure, and they're going to port us again. They can put things like Stoneforge Mystic into play as well. They're going to tap down probably our Gemstone Mine here. Because this is just an Urborg with extra text, basically. Because it taps for black and then can tap by removing a counter for any colour. So it should be the Mine that goes here. Alright, not the Mine. Interesting. An Exploration. Alright, we don't have to crack this guy. We can just leave it in play until we have a bit more mana to work with. So they should be tapping our Gemstone Mine. It's going to be a Stoneforge Mystic. It is. What is this going to find? A Cauldron. Sure. That's a big one. So our opponent's going to leave their Caracas untapped, which is awkward for us, to say the least. We need our opponent to not tap our Gemstone Mine this turn, or for us to find another green source for this Legolas's quick reflexes. Alright, they're putting in something off the Ether Vial. What is it? A Skyclave Apparition. Onto our Hexmage. This doesn't help. So if we make this, they're just going to bounce it with Caracas. I think the play here is to remove all the counters from Ether Vial. Alright, we are losing this game. We need some help. They're going to Field of Ruin us now. They are. No basics over here. This is where the green-black version at least gets a little bit of joy from it. So we're going to get bashed for 5 here. I don't think we want Null Rods for this matchup, just to shut down Ether Vials, but it is something to think about sometimes. No, we're not going to get there. Alright. On the play, do we want the Sudden Shock or do we want an Inquisition? I think we'd rather have an Inquisition on the play. I don't think we want the Null Rods to stop Ether Vials, but it is an interesting option. I don't think we do though. Let's go back in. We should be able to go in underneath our opponent and force them to have like a Solitude. Right, this goes off relatively quick, doesn't it? We will keep this. Let's play this Exploration and this Urborg. So we can crop rotate next turn, but basically we're looking for a green mana source, and then I'm very confident we can win this game. The fact that our opponent hasn't wastelanded there is also very good for us. This Ether Vial is going to be too slow to matter on the clock we're working on, roughly. Green mana source, please. Not a green mana source. Interesting. Right, I'll play this Urborg and this untap one. Let's play this guy. There is an Ether Vial. So we can end of turn get the Dark Depths, but we don't really want to make it while our opponent can just kill us. There is a Wasteland. Okay. Some Pithing Needles would be nice. A Swords to Plowshares. They remove the counter from their Ether Vial. Slow them down a little bit on that front. Okay. So we got some work to do. If we'd have had... if the Exploration had been the Elvish Spirit Guide instead, that would have given us the extra green mana we needed. So that's an interesting point. Okay. We can't double crop rotation. We can... If we crop rotation at any point, they're just going to wasteland. It's going to be a jam up. So we need our opponent to like wasteland our Urborg or something. Yeah, they shouldn't be wastelanding in our turn like that. At the end of turn anyway, they should just be going to their turn and then they get more information about whether they need their wasteland for mana purposes or whatever. There is a Rishdam Port, so they can lock down both of our mana sources this turn if they want to. Also, whenever they tap City of Brass, we will take 1 damage, because this is whenever it becomes tapped. Am I crop rotating something here? We can get rid of their Wasteland, but what's that actually doing for us? Not a lot. I think we're just going to save this green mana. Alright. When they go to our draw step, are they going to Wasteland our Urborg? Honestly, I would love them to Wasteland our Urborg. That gives us an in back in this game. Yep, be my guest. Put our land and another land. Alright, now we're cooking. So next turn we can go and get our combo. So we want to draw a mana source next turn so that we can have our Legolas's swift reflex. Why do I keep calling it swift? It's quick reflexes. What would you like to do, opponent? Richard and Port, my City of Brass again, is it? Let's go and get our crop rotation going. And I think we get the Thespian stage here instead of the Dark Depths. We can get the Dark Depths in a sec. We can protect this by copying the land. Mana source, please. It's a mana source. Okay. So we get to attempt our combo with Legolas's swift reflexes up. Quick reflexes. Now, we probably want to do this in our opponent's turn here. But when exactly are we doing it in our opponent's turn? It's going to take up to 3 if they have Wasteland. If we do it now, they can just port our Thespian stage. So that's not great. They can probably port our Thespian stage at any point. So we're probably supposed to do that in step. Let's try this out. They should port down... Okay, they didn't port down our Thespian stage. This will copy our depths. I really hope our opponent lets us go to our turn. Now they can port the Mana Confluence here. We will keep the one with no counters on. But we can float the green, and then when we untap, we'll have the green as well. They would like to get rid of this guy. Split second, please. Now we can try and wait for more protection, but we have this. Now if they have like a Flicker Wisp under the Ether Vial, then they just get to do that next turn in our upkeep. Then when they know we have no cards, and they're probably in a good spot to win this one. But our hand ended up being a bit awkward this game. Right, upkeep. Tap the Ether Vial, kill our guy. Or a Solitude, sure. Okay, we're going to gain 20 life. 1 card away. Alright, next time we combo off, we do get to combo off in a good way, but our opponent is going to be able to grind pretty well from here because they got a Yorion waiting in the wings, as well as the Ether Vial that's now ticking up to some pretty big numbers. Alright, staying on 3, which does make me think Flicker Wisp is in our future. It makes sense they lead out with a Solitude, because then if they Flicker Wisp in, they can like blink the Solitude and do stuff with it if for some reason it doesn't work. Like if we had something like Stifle. Sure, you can tap our Mana Confluence. A Boseiju. Are we supposed to play that as a mana source, or are we supposed to use it to get rid of their Port or Ether Vial? I think we probably want to get rid of their Port or Ether Vial. Which one we get rid of is an interesting discussion though. Yorion to hand. And a Caracas. The Caracas is probably more important to get rid of than anything else here. Because the Caracas represents a Yorion loop, as well as being able to get rid of our threat. Alright, they're really making us work for this one. Our opponent is very far ahead in this game. A Lotus Petal. Okay, that's not unhelpful. That can give us a little bit more mana when we're a little bit behind. If our opponent can string together a Wasteland or 2, then I think we're probably lights out. But this is going up to 5 now. They rarely want to keep it on 4. It's just Palace Jailer, I think, on 4. And sometimes Seasoned Engineer if they're running it. Another Caracas. Okay, that's terrible news for us. Not a big fan of receiving terrible news, but their Ether Vial now has Solitude and Yorion as options out of it. Pithing Needle. Okay, I like that one. I think this has to be on the Ether Vial. Or is it on the Caracas? Like, they're both pretty bad. Maybe it is the Caracas here. Kind of wish we didn't use our Boseiju on it now, but... Right, here comes something off the Ether Vial. This is just going to be the Yorion as a clock. Yeah. Right, so this is going to come in and name Caracas. So they can still do Solitudes off the Ether Vial, but they can already just cast that anyway, so that doesn't really matter. We've got some life to work with. Yeah, ordinarily in this matchup, we wanted the game to be over by like turn 3. And now we're in turn 9 and 10, so going to be awkward. The Mother of Ruins can certainly roadblock our MARIT LAGE'S for a while, in conjunction with the Yorion. Goodbye Mana Confluence. Another Lotus Petal. Okay, that's enough mana to be getting on with. We just need to find a Dark Depths and another combo piece. But our opponent's got a reasonable beatdown going here. and undoubtedly something else useful in hand. Ganjo, just a land, doesn't really do anything in this matchup. Yep, goodbye Mana Confluence. Another Lotus Petal, that's not the one. So we're going to be getting below our starting low total soon. Right, gonna bash for 4 again. A Wasteland, that's a pretty good one. Right, so they're just going to take us off of all of our mana. Pithing Needle. I want to play this Pithing Needle, but I don't think we have to play it now. I think if we can find another mana source and play that, that's going to be helpful. The question is, what are we shutting off with it? Is it the Aether Vial? Is it the Mother of Runes so that our MARIT Lage can actually connect through the Yorion? Is it the Rishdam Port so we have more mana to work with? I don't think the mana's the gate with all these Lotus Petals though, so it's probably going to be on the Mother of Runes. Alright. Even more tempting to put on the Mother of Runes. Yep, we're going to continue this song and dance. A Boseiju. I like the Boseiju, but I do think we're supposed to play the Pithing Needle now. Don't think you want to put in with that Aether Vial? No. We're not beating Mother of Runes if our opponent... If we make our 2020, we can't beat the Caracas or the Mother of Runes without a little bit of help. We've got a Solitude covered. So our opponent's now going to be attacking for 6 a turn because their Mother of Runes is just going to be beating down. They're going to play a Giver of Runes now, aren't they? No. 3 mana. 4 mana. 5. 6. This is Cauldra. Yeah, it's going to be the Cauldra, but they're leaving open the Rishdam Port mana. Alright, this changes the clock quite dramatically. So this is going to be us dead like next turn. This is what? 5, 10, 11? Yeah, so we're going to be dead on their next turn. So we're going to need to come up with something pretty special here. Now this is where something like Life from the Loam would be great. Help us deploy a bunch of stuff. Sure, you can tap down our Boseiju. Alright, just have all the Lotus Petals. Alright, that was unfortunate. Maybe we could have mulliganed slightly harder. This matchup is generally pretty reasonable. The ability of having Life from the Loam to grind through these matchups is something that I've been liking over Legolas's, well, over things like Legolas's Reflexes, like Tamio's Safekeeping. I preferred running the Life from the Loam, and I think if we'd have had Life from the Loam, we'd have been better off here because we could have bought our things again instead, and we wouldn't get sort of locked down underneath their mana. We could just keep going and just deploying loads of land. So we could have made the Dark Depths combo every single turn until we won the game, and our opponent just keep making us gain 20. So at the moment, based on this sample size of 1 game, my first ever game with Legolas's quick reflexes, in the matchup where you would want it, I think I still prefer Life from the Loam. Alright, let's go to round 2.
If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget Turbodepths as well as 3 tiers of support. A low cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed Turbodepths guide that is updated every month as well as regular articles, and lastly the higher tier gives you all of the above as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.
Alright, our opening hand for round 2 is pretty reasonable. So we have turn 1 Thoughtseize, turn 2 we can deploy the Mana Confluence, like the other Mana Confluence, and then turn after we can try and go. This is fine. I'd rather not have the Sejiri Steppe in our hand. This means it's just going to be able to let us push through blockers, but it's not going to be any form of protection from spells, because we can only do it at sorcery speed. A Mishra's Bauble. What flavour of Mishra's Bauble deck are they? They could be Delver, they could be 8-cast, they could be Paradoxical Outcome, they could be Saga Storm, they could be the Epic Storm. Alright, and a Trop. So this makes me think more like Rug Delver. Thought Scour. They just milled 2 Wastelands. Very interesting. What did they see? A Vampire Hexmage. Interesting. This lets us try and combo next turn, doesn't it? So I'm going to Thoughtseize our opponent. I think our opponent's going to be on a heavy delve strategy. Force of Will will stop what we're doing, the other things won't. So we'll take the thing that actually stops our plan here. Pretty glad they milled over those 2 Wastelands though. Alright, so we're going to see here. Blue, blue. Is this just a big Mercs? Yep, that's fine. We certainly don't lose to that one. Pithing Needle is kind of nice. So our opponent has no mystery cards. So we know exactly what they have. So we can play our Hexmage with no protection. That's probably acceptable, isn't it? And in our opponent's upkeep, we will make the creature to dodge wastelands, and then we can get through their blocker as well. So they need to not draw their 1/of Brazen Borrower this turn. Or they might have something like Seal of Removal. But we don't want to find either of those things. Our opponents should know if they're dead or not now. I guess they could... No, they can't really Questing Druid into anything useful here. I guess they don't know that they can't block with this Murktide Regent. So they might think they have another turn, so they can set up a Questing Druid on our turn to try and dig for an answer. That's probably where they're at. But we're just going to smash this Sejiri Steppe down. Blue, red. Don't do it to me. Alright, they're just seeking the beast. Let's see what they find. A Questing Druid and a Ponder. So they should know if this Murktide Regent is blocking or not. Alright, they don't even want to block with it. Sure. Okay, so a Delvery style matchup. Interesting. We need our Pithing Needles to get rid of their wastelands from smashing us up. I'm not particularly interested in Bojuka Bog. The Duress is awkward if they're running Borrower, so I think we'd rather have Inquisitions over Duresses. And then we can play 1 Swift Reflexes, or quick Reflexes even, and try this out. I don't want to... Is a Duress better than the Legolas's quick Reflexes? Like, they're different, right? Is the thing. Well, if we're boarding in... I think we want 1 Duress over 1 Inquisition, just for the purposes of Force of Will and stuff getting through them. Sure, we'll try that. Do we need 4 Not of This World, actually? So I like the Reflexes because it lets us just smash straight through the enemy's like blockers, because they have a lot of creatures with flying in their deck. Delver, Murktide Regent, and then they can sometimes flip a Channeler on the turn they need to go through. So just being able to blow them up with the Legolas's thing is pretty handy. Like, that might be wrong and we're supposed to just have more Duresses and more Inquisitions instead of the quick Reflexes. But we do have hands that kind of ignore... I'm going to say they ignore Wasteland. This does not ignore Wasteland though. But it's got some decent protection. I'll keep this. There is a Tropical Island. We're going to see a Delver or a Ponder. A Ponder. That's better for us. There is a Bauble. I'm taking a look now. Plays around our discard effects worse, but plays around the chance of them having a Force of Will or a Daze better. So, how do we want to begin this game? I think we begin with Thespian Stage. And then we play out our Lotus Petals, play around Daze, and play Pithing Needle. So the reason we're playing out the stage first is I don't want to jam our crop rotation into counter spells, and we need this to find our Dark Depths. So we're going to play this game a little bit slower. So we name Wasteland here. And if something goes horribly wrong, we do still have a crop rotation we can fire off. But I think we're going to be playing this one a little bit slower. If we find some discard, then we may potentially regret the last play we made by playing the Thespian Stage. Alright, our opponent's holding up some mana. A Gemstone Mine. I'll play this one out. I'm not going to burn a Lotus Petal for a Hexmage like this. Yeah, I think we probably do want discard rather than Legolas's Swift Reflexes. I think quick Reflexes. Why do I keep saying Swift? I think that's going to be better for us than being able to discard. Being able to discard stuff is just going to be better for us than the... Because obviously we can't really fire off a crop rotation until we know the coast is clear, because it requires multiple resources. It's a card from hand and a land. Now, if we just keep drawing some more lands, then I don't mind doing that as much, and we can sort of test. Or if we draw multiple crop rotations, we can do that. But we can't, as it lies, we're not really going to be able to utilise this crop rotation just yet. Right, another one of those. This Questing Druid can certainly get large and in charge. Alright, they're looking at themselves with the Bauble so they can know how to use their fetch land, and if they want to use it for selection, which is a good play. There is a Volcanic Island and a Ponder to grow the Questing Druid. Worst case scenario, we can use our Hexmage to remove all the counters off Questing Druid so it doesn't kill us. It's not a scenario I would like to be in. I shuffled their library off of the Ponder. Another crop rotation. Okay, I'm down to clown with this. Let's see what happens if we try and play a Hexmage. So we can just back-to-back crop rotation into 2020. Will cost us our Lotus Petal this time. Our opponent's got a lot of cards there, so I'm not feeling great about this. Unholy Heat, targeting our Vampire Hexmage. We'll let the Questing Druid resolve first. Alright, let's sacrifice one of these Gemstone Mines. I suspect this is getting counterspelled. Kind of surprised to see Unholy Heat still in there, to be honest. But I guess it's a case of how many things you have to board out. But surely Unholy Heat goes with, and the Lightning Bolt stays. At least the bolts can get a face. Or even just be used as a Surveil with a Channeler in play, or a pump of your Questing Druid, whereas Unholy Heat can't always do that. But you don't really know what your opponent's sideboard configuration is. Maybe they just don't have that many things, or maybe they thought we were on some sort of Reclaimer build. A Force of Will. Right, we're going to remove all the counters from this Questing Druid. Aha, your spell's countered. So now we don't get to crop rotate for combo straight up. Alright, so they're brainstorming now just to grow their little friend. But we've expended quite a lot of their resources here. Alright, they've done a brainstorm and shuffle. Improve the quality of their hand. They're just going to fire off some more cantrips here. Okay, this is the Murktide region. Sure. Let's leave them with 2 cards in hand. We only really need 1 more mana source to have a stab at winning this game. So we're going to take a bash for 3 here. But this would have been like 8 or something if we didn't remove all those counters. We forced a little fight and some action out. Thoughtseize, that's not great for us. It's 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. That'd be 4. And then this will be 3. Life, yeah. It's getting a little bit tight over here. We need another mana source to attempt to put it on the stack. It puts us to 6. So if they can pump their Questing Druid enough, then nothing will save us here. Alright, another land. That's hard cast Force of Will they're representing over there. Another crop rotation. So we crop rotate this into an Urborg. We crop rotate this into a Dark Depths. We make our 20/20. And we hope that's good enough. We have to do this in combat. I don't think this is going to be good enough. My Lightning Bolt kills us here as well. Force of Negation. Yep, that'll do it. Alright, so we're going to game 3. I don't think I like these Swift Reflexes. I think Not of This World is going to do the same thing most of the time. And I just want to be able to make sure that we can play through counter magic. So if you're wondering why I board out Bojuka Bog, it's the fact that we should never be trying to crop rotate for our Bojuka Bog in this matchup. Well, that's only for the matchups that go underneath you. Delver doesn't go underneath you. It stops you from doing your thing with interaction. So we need to play more things against the interaction rather than trying to like slow down their bodies by wasting something like a crop rotation. Now, if you naturally draw the Bojuka Bog, it can sometimes be useful. But drawing a come into play tap land in our deck is not great. So that's why I'm kind of off of having that in our main deck, in our deck post board. Basically, if you're ever trying to Bojuka Bog in the Delver matchup off of a crop rotation, you've probably lost a game. It's just not worth doing. Alright. Yeah, I can roll with this one. We have the uncounterable 20/20 on turn 3. We'll play out Mana Confluence and we'll play out the Lotus Petal so that we have protection for days if we need to do anything with this. Crop rotation is protection we can use. Ghost Quarter can get rid of an opposing wasteland. I'm usually pretty happy to play against Delver. I think my win rate against Delver is like about 60% with this deck, which for win rates against Delver is a pretty solid one. Alright, more protection. Here comes a Thespian stage. What do you want to do, opponent? Are you working towards wastelands? Nothing before combat, interesting. Another Channeler. That is not the one, is it? And a Mystic Sanctuary tap. That is definitely not the one. So we can play out this Dark Depths now, and we can activate it. Or this will cost us our Lotus Petal, which means we can't play around days. The other option here is to play the Dark Depths, is to play the Mana Confluence and just hold that up. But we could play the Dark Depths out and let our opponent know what's going on a little bit. And they might scoop to this. We have crop rotation. Couple of guys, don't want to get hit by days. I think we're playing the Mana Confluence out here. This allows us to play around things. We basically want to be able to have Not of This World around days or Not of This World and crop rotation. 2 answers. So seeing a lot of cards here. Put 2 of them into the bin. They get to see 3, potentially 4 more. Not bad amount of cards. I can see 6 different cards with this 1 card. They chose not to shuffle their library. Not a big fan of that one. Okay, it was a brainstorm, I think. So we're going to take 6 this turn, but next turn we can have a 20/20 to rumble. Lotus Petal will be a really good draw for us. That'll allow us to hold up mana for days, as well as deploy our crop rotation and our Not of This World. They kept one of the cards off the brainstorm. Right, Scalding Tarn, that is not a wasteland. That is good for us. So next turn, in our opponent's upkeep, we're going to make the guy so we can dodge a wasteland. What are they doing with their Scalding Tarn here? They're shuffling away their brainstorm. Have they got another brainstorm looking for more answers? Could be. A tropical island. Another brainstorm, seeing a whole bunch of cards, up to 5 cards. That suggests to me that our opponent doesn't have an answer. But I do feel we have to go now, otherwise we get pretty low health and we're not going to be able to put the damage down before they put enough on us. Okay, so they left whatever card was on top, so that's concerning. Right, in our opponent's upkeep, we'll make a 2020. I hope they left a Wasteland on top. Unlikely at this stage of the game. But red mana, that does not deal with a 2020. Another guy, blue mana, a Ponder with triple Surveil, sure. So we get to gobble up one of these channelers this turn, most likely. We can use our crop rotation to find a Sejiri Steppe and try and win the game if we think that's what we need to do. They put one card on top of their library. That is a concern, I would say. Because at this stage of the game, they're only putting things on top of their library that can deal with our 2020. Or at least block. Okay, so this is going to give them 3 Surveils and draw. So that might have been what they left on top, because this basically counts as seeing 4 new cards. There's a Wasteland. A little bit too late for that one. I will gobble up one of these channelers. Opponent's got 3 cards in hand. It's going to be 4 when we move to my turn. Inquisition of Kozilek is a pretty good find, I would say. I'm going to play this one out. I'm going to Inquisition our opponent. This means we know we can crop rotate or not for the win right now. This hits Brazen Borrower. Force of Will. Double Channeler. Interesting. I think I'm going to try and go for the win here. And we will sacrifice this Mana Confluence. It's Sejiri Steppe. Give our creature pro red. We have the Brazen Borrower covered with our Not of This World. Alright, they've had enough. We had to work through a fair bit there. And it was quite a long game, really. 5 turns is more than we necessarily want to play, but we got there in the end. Again, having a good Delver matchup is one of the reasons I think Dark Depths is a good deck. And the more people are on Rug Delver now than Grixis Delver because of how well it did at Eternal Weekend Europe. So Rug is definitely a better matchup for us than Grixis because they can sometimes have Sheoldred's Edict. But yeah, we are 1-1. Let's keep it rolling. Alright, so we're into round 3. We do have access to our combo, but it's a bit slow here. This is what? Turn 3 with 1 piece of disruption, and we have to resolve 2 crop rotations. I think we can actually do better. Yeah, that's better, isn't it? I will take that. So this is turn 1, Pithing Needle. Turn 2... okay, we have to decide what goes here. So we're obviously keeping the Dark Depths. We keep the Pithing Needle to protect from Wasteland. Keep the Lotus Petal. One of the lands, which means we're getting rid of Gemstone Mine or City of Brass, I believe. I think it's probably this... is it the City? Tapping once, tapping twice, tapping 3 times. And then the Gemstone Mine goes. Maybe it's not the Gemstone Mine. Alright, we're going to keep this City of Brass here. We'll yield to this. We can turn off those yields if the situation arises where we need to. Alright, so in the blind, we put this on Wasteland, then our opponent drops a Karakas and makes us feel sad. That's normally what happens in these situations. We'll see. Windswept Heath. This is definitely a deck that could be running Wastelands, like a depth strategy. Right, let's try a Hexmage. Wasteland is off, so we don't need to worry about that. But we do need to worry about potential Karakas. So I'm not just going to make this now, because our opponent could just crop rotate into it. Play this out. Cast a Pithing Needle. They're going to crack both their Windswept Heaths here, because otherwise we name it and then they don't get any lands. We'll name Karakas here. Go to tax. Just for green or white. I don't think there's anything that can beat a 2/1 first striker with that mana. I guess Ghost Quarter could be kind of annoying, but they can't use the Ghost Quarter while we have the Hexmage. They have to plow and Ghost Quarter. Plow? Alright, they got to plow. That's 20 life and a lot of time. That's bought our opponent. An exploration. Not quite the one we want. There's no point actually running this exploration out at this point. We're not going to be drawing 2 lands in one go. Although there are situations where you might want to sandbag lands and use like multiple Urborgs as like Lotus Petals. We can cross that bridge when we come to it because it will cost us a life to put this into play. And right now it's not doing anything. And a card in our hand is scarier for our opponent than an exploration on the board. So this is the second time today where exploration has looked not that good. But then again, Elvish Spirit Guide probably not great on this board anyway. So I think they're both similar in quality there. Alright, we're going to see here. Once Upon a Time. I feel like our opponent's playing Maverick. Mother of Runes. Yep, That seals the deal for me. That's a Maverick deck. Horizon Canopy. You can see... No, we're not going to see the mana. We're going to see green and colourless mana. An Outland Liberator. This can blow up Pithing Needles. That's pretty good. And there's some other runes. Alright, deck. You need to deliver for us right now. A Lotus Petal. That's not really great delivering for us, is it? Alright. The Frenzy Trapbreaker flipping is also pretty annoying. But if we play... I guess we could have played the Exploration out there and paid 1 life. I think that was just an error. We're going to lose the one on Wasteland here. Yeah, that was an error. We could have turned that off, really. Right, 2 Wastelands over there. Yikes. Knight to the Reliquary. Okay. So Green-White Depths is one of our worst matchups. And depending on how far our opponent's leaning into that, I don't really know. I don't think we're winning from this point. I think I'm just going to call it a day. Go to sideboarding. So, for this matchup, the Duresses are bad and they can get out. Legolas's quick reflexes are supposed to be good in this matchup, so let's try those. Other than that, we have options like Inquisition of Kozilek and Sudden Shock. Sudden Shock, not that exciting to me at the end of the day. It's not really for this matchup. I think I'd rather have an Inquisition than a Bojuka Bog. Is that true? No, we don't really want to try and get rid of our opponent's wastelands using Bojuka Bog. We want to do it with the Pithing Needle. And then, do we want this other Inquisition of Kozilek? And if so, how would we squeeze it in? Maybe we can trim an Exploration here for an Inquisition. There's not that many cards we care about. But, I don't know. The information is always nice to have. Turn 2 with Protection. I will keep this. Basically, with our deck, when you keep a 7-card hand, your odds of winning are enormous. Obviously, you know, it has to be a good enough 7 to keep, but 7 cards is so much to work with our deck. Let's name Wasteland. They could Force of Vigor this. Alright, opponent, let's see what you got. A Wasteland. Do they have a Force of Vigor? Let's find out. They do not. We will not do this on this turn right now. Because they want to pay their Force of Vigor, we then make it in response. Alright. We know they have Wasteland, so we don't need... And the Wasteland's covered, so we don't need to do that now. We'll make it end turn. Alright. Alright, they don't even have the plow. Excellent. Alright, that's what we want to do. Let's do it again. This is a turn 2 combo. I think that's acceptable. With a little bit more mana, we get protection as well. I'm not sure if our opponent's going to have their own Thespian stage, which means we have to be careful with how we deploy our Dark Depths. A Noble Hierarch, sure. A Thespian stage, that is better to play out than a Ghost Quarter, I believe. And I will play out 1 Lotus Petal in case we need to do an emergency crop rotation. Like if they get rid of our Pithing Needle and then Wasteland us, I'd like to be able to interact with that. Okay, so we can play this out. If we play out the Dark Depths, we do have the combo right there and then. But if we... Do I think our opponent has... I don't think they have the Dark Depths combo in their deck. We're just going to play out Dark Depths here. A Scrib Ranger. Sure. That can block for a turn. Can also give them a big jump in mana this turn if they're running some sort of natural order strategy. Umezawa's Jitte. Sure. Okay. We are not going to make our 22. They're clearly telegraphing a removal spell here. We don't need to walk into that. This will gain them some life, but we should be able to hit them for 40 before it's enough. Sylvan Scrying. Potentially useful at some point. Alright, so now we can do this with protection. We can try and gobble this up now. Or we can try and force some action. I think if we gobble this up now, that's actually pretty good. We'll let them get their Exalt Trigger. So this will copy our Dark Depths. We're leaving up mana for the Reflexes, which is just open and shut here. Let's get Swift, or Quick even. Why do I keep saying Swift Reflexes? What's wrong with me? Gobble up your little friend. And the issue here is we untap and we can't immediately crop rotate to protect this. I think we should have played the Boseiju last turn instead of the Ghost Quarter. And if we lose because of that, that's pretty annoying. But we do have the tools to assemble the combo again. Yeah, I kept the Boseiju in hand in case we need to blow up something that was being a problem for us. Oh, they're paying some mana here. And Endurance. Interesting. And a Green Sun Zenith. Can I play out my land, or are you going to Solitude? You did not Solitude me, that's good news. We'll play this out. I'm going to attack for 20. I think the Endurance will block here, but they could just gain some life and try and beat us down. I know they're just taking the block here. I'm thinking about it. Alright. Need a lot of counters on the old Jit to swing this around. A Stone Forge Mystic. What is this going to be? A Batter Skull. Okay. I'm equipping the Jit here. I would not hate a black source because I'm just Thoughtseize away this Batterskull. But we should kill them before the Batterskull does enough life gain. Because they're gonna survive our next hit using Jitte. Outland Liberator. That's just a guy, isn't it? Another crop rotation. So we can go and get the Thoughtseize, take out the Batterskull, but then we are shields down, really, aren't we? Right, so we just attack with this. So I'm going to gain 2 life. I'm going to go to 1. Interesting. It's annoying that we don't have another coloured source here. Alright. How does our opponent intend to beat what is happening? I'm going to take out our Wasteland here. Our Pithing Needle on Wasteland. Which could be a burden for us. They've got Wasteland and Plough in hand. That would be pretty good. There's a Wasteland. Tapping it for colourless mana. That reassures me somewhat. Okay, you can have some stuff on your Stoneforge. 2 cards in hand. What can they possibly have here? I'll play this out. It's got to be a Plough, right? Oh no, they're going to play an Endurance here. Legolas's Swift Reflexes. So this is going to give it reach. And then we're going to crop rotate for protection from white. We know the final card in their hand. Alright, so we got the match there. The Maverick matchup is a lot easier than the Green-White Depths matchup. But they have some similar tools, but they are a little bit slower and they don't get to mess with our lands in the same way. But yeah, we're turn 1. We're going along nicely. Let's go to round 4. Right, our opening hand for round 4 does not really do anything for me here. So we're going to be going back for a 6. Alright, the second hand we've been dealt isn't much better, so I think we're going to go in again. This has got some flaws in it for sure. If we draw mana, we're going to be okay. So I think we get rid of the card we definitely can't cast. We get rid of one of the Not of This Worlds. We need to find mana, but we've got a couple of turns to do it. And we're on the draw. A Chrome Mox. We might not get to play any spells this game. We'll see. If they have a Chalice on 1, that's going to be bad news for us. If they just combo out a Solitude. Okay, so we're looking at red-white initiative here. Chalice for 1. Alright, we do have an answer for that, but it is also our only green source. So, not big into that. An Exploration. Okay, we don't have to worry about Wasteland in this matchup. We can't play out our Exploration, though, because of the Chalice. I think we are playing out the Boseiju, because any land next turn gives us Sylvan Scrying, which only puts us 1 mana source away from being able to win the game. Alright, this is going to be Fable the Mirror Breaker. Nope, just a 4 Theolingus for 1. Okay. The initiative is pretty good. Come on. Some mana sources. Alright. So we're going to cast ourselves a Sylvan Scrying. We go and get ourselves the Thespian stage. Then we are looking for any mana off the top in the next couple of turns. And I hope that our opponent doesn't Windmill Slam something terrifying that will kill us. So we're asking for a little bit of help. Right, a little Nug for 2. What does the second main phase hold? Cavernous Souls on human. You got a big boy? Lotus Petal. Are they just going to hold up Solitude? They are just going to hold up Solitude. We have that covered though, when the time comes. Alright, so we found the land we were looking for. We play out the Thespian stage here. Actually, we didn't even need that land, did we think about it? So we just play out the Thespian stage here. Next time we play out the Dark Depths. Then we have the 2020. So we kind of need our opponent to not do anything too scary this turn. And then next turn we get to jam with protection. It's only 1 layer of protection. And they are drawing 2 cards a turn. So there is a chance we get double Solituded. Alright, that wasn't their one of Caracas. So that's nice. They didn't do a big 4 Theolingus turn. And they're on the end step. Excellent. Here's our Dark Depths. Can you beat what we're putting down? Do you have a very telegraphed Endurance? Not Endurance, Solitude. But in case they're running the Sorcery Speed removal spell, I can't remember what it's called now, Touch of the Spirit Realm. I guess it's the same instant speed as Sorcery Speed, isn't it? I'm just trying to think if there's any... They could be on the build that runs the Brutal Cathar that leans more into humans, so I don't really want to jam the Dark Depths in combat here. We're just going to do it end step. Like, it's either going to be good enough or we're going to lose, basically. Because it's only a matter of time before our opponent finds the stuff that's going to kill us. If they tap out for a bunch of knights and are hoping that the Solitude in their hand is going to be enough to kill us, then I'm okay with that. With blocking and saving 2 life. Oh, okay. They're off it. Excellent. So, this matchup. We would like to kill Magus of the Moon, please. The Pithing Needles don't really do anything in this matchup, so they can go Legolas' Swift Reflexes is pretty reasonable here. Duress, not so good. Which means I think we're bringing in 2 more Swift Reflexes. Not great into the old Chalice of the Void there. But I think this is where we want to be. Bojuka Bog, we could board out for a... what would you even board, really? Like, a Collector Ouphe can shut off their stuff sometimes. But honestly, I don't think we want to do anything differently here. Alright, we have 7 split-second spells in our deck. It's like playing Time Spiral Constructed all over again. I didn't used to play that many split-second spells. This hand does not do anything for us. We have no access to the 1 card we require to win every game. Well, I have won games with Beatdown before, but that's not really... we have access to the Dark Depths. We have access to Stopping Blood Moon. We have some protection. So this is the sort of hand where you want your opponent to play Mages of the Moon. So you get your Sylvan Scrying, put your Dark Depths, use your Sudden Shock as your way. Not 100% convinced by that, but I think I'm going to give it a go. What does this mean we're losing here? Is it the Exploration? And we just hold on with this Sylvan Scrying? I think it probably is, isn't it? Alright, let's hope your hand is all in on Mages of the Moon. And then we can turn to make 2020 with defense. Oh yes, oh yes. Oh yes. You absolutely love to see it. Oh my god, I love this game so much sometimes. Alright, let's play this. We'll play this. Sylvan Scrying for Dark Depths. Next time we play Dark Depths, it will have no counters on. We sudden shock their Magus, and we win. Now, if our opponent can play a second Magus here, then we're kind of in an awkward situation. Alright, that is annoying in a different way. Right, there goes our Dark Depths. So next time we can block the Archon of Emeria. Broadside Bombardiers. That's a pretty big boy if you haven't seen this one. He's a 3-mana Menace, Haste 2/2, and then you can sacrifice a creature, deal 2 plus the permanent mana value to any target. But you can only activate this after a creature attacked. So you attack with a bunch of stuff and then sack something to dome someone big time. It's pretty good. I don't believe they're going to sacrifice anything right now. Alright, so we can play out our Urborg that comes in tapped. We can play out our Lotus Petal for our Swift Reflexes. We want our opponent to play something pre-combat next turn. Our opponent only has 1 card in hand though. Boom. This is what I am here for. Now, if their last 2 cards are White Card and Solitude, that's going to suck. Because we don't get to cast another spell as long as this Archon's on the battlefield. But we're trying to get rid of this Archon with our 2020 here. You don't get to sacrifice it with your Broadside Bombardiers either. Hello, MARIT LAGE'S. Please let me block your guy. They're probably going to sack it and deal us some extra damage here. Now we have 2 forms of protection here. Our opponent is going down. Sure. Cavern of Souls. What have you got? Archon. Sure. This is going to be the last card out of their hand. This is a chump blocker that will not do anything because of our Legolas' Swift Reflexes. So when this attacks, he'll deal its damage equal to the Archon of Emeria. 20 damage to the Archon of Emeria, and boom! Not too shabby. That puts us 3-1, so we locked in the positive record. We're going for the 4-1 now. Alright, our opening hand for the final round doesn't produce a 2020. We are going to mulligan this. This one also doesn't produce a 2020. Back you go. Nope. This one does produce a 2020. We're going to get 4 of these cards. We're going to keep land, land. We need a crop rotation here. Probably need another mana source, which means it's this, this, and this that goes. Not feeling special about this one. Right. Let's play a Lotus Petal. Obviously, there's various ways this can get punished, but we have to kind of play into what we've got. Marsh Flats. Alright. A Lotus Petal. If our opponent is some sort of graveyard combo deck, we do have Bojuka Bog as an option. Right, looking like Reanimator on our opponent's side there. Collective Brutality. Target opponent reveals their hand. You choose an instant or sorcery card from it. That player discards it. Okay. Now, do we get the Bojuka Bog here? I think we probably do. And now you can have a look. Alright. I don't think we want a Ghost Quarter here. I think it's the Thespian stage they know about. So, Dark Depths is a good draw. Crop Rotation is a good draw. Maybe not if they're blue Reanimator. Might just get countered. Sylvan Scrying is an acceptable draw. Play this Lotus Petal out. Do I want to play this Ghost Quarter out? That's an interesting. I think we just want to have more mana. Like, they're not going to play around anything at this point. We're like Hellbent and stuff. So if we'd have got the Dark Depths, we would have been able to make a 2020 by now, but we don't know if that would have actually mattered. Right, I would like a swamp, please. because our opponent might have just been able to do all their reanimated stuff and kill us. A Boseiju who endures. Interesting. This can blow up something like an Animate Dead in response to the trigger on it, so they never get their creature in play. I think this is worth having. Unmask. Sure, you can see our Boseiju. A Crop Rotation. Okay, we can attempt to kill our opponent. I would like to have this Boseiju still at the ready. A Lotus Petal from our opponent. They've only got 2 cards in hand. This is hard cast Force of Will mana though. Float colourless. We'll make green mana. We will crop rotate away our Ghost Quarter. We'll get our Dark Depths. We'll copy our Dark Depths. Keep this one. Our opponent got Edicts. It does feel like they're pretty heavy into reanimate, so I'm not really sure how they answer this. I think if they had an answer, they would have fired it off earlier. Okay. I think their answer is going to be the Archon of Cruelty here. So this is going to put Archon of Cruelty in the graveyard, and they're going to... No, just an Atraxa. Interesting. I hope they have an Animate Dead for this. That would make me feel great. Oh my god. Animate Dead. So this isn't in play yet, is it? Let's kill this now, so it never comes into play. Alright. They know that we know the Boseiju trait once we started paying for mana there, because they've already seen the Boseiju. So they know that they were basically trying to play for us to make a mistake there, which is correct. 100% correct to do that. Okay, I would like some Surgical Extractions. I would like some Inquisition of Kozilek. Do I think our opponent is going to play Magus of the Moon? That is a thing that these decks can and sometimes do play. We do not need Ghost Quarter in this matchup as a general rule. The Pithing Needle is also pretty redundant. And that takes us to exactly 60 here. Do we want an answer for Magus of the Moon? How much do we think our opponent's going to be indexing into? Like, Legolas' Swift Reflexes is kind of interesting because it does kill their big blocker if that's what they're aiming to like survive with. So I think maybe this is one of the matchups where the Reflexes might be better than the Not of This World. So we're going to roll like this. I'm probably going to index into a... Oh, this hand is very much asking for another land, isn't it? So I was going to say they're probably going to index heavily into finding Show and Tell. This hand does require mana. I think we can do better though. Yikes, that's not better. This is turn 3 with protection. And it's redundant. It's immune to discard. But it doesn't really interact with our opponent very much. Okay, so we go Dark Depths, Thespian Stage, Urborg, Mana Confluence in case we need green mana, and Not of This World. These two go back. Alright. I believe our opponent is favoured at this point. They mulligan to a turn 1? No. But they could have Entomb and then untap and do something with it. If we want to represent our... I think we are supposed to play out the Urborg, as annoying as that is. We have to play to our own plan here. Like, our opponent might have like mulligan to an answer sort of thing. So like Wear Tear type effects. Right, no Entomb end of turn. That's pretty good. No second land for our opponent. Interesting. Right, so this turn we play out the Thespian Stage. And then next time we play out the Dark Depths. The reason we do it this way is so that we can represent more stuff potentially with mana. And also we want to get these in play now. So if our opponent plays a Show and Tell, we want to be able to Show and Tell in our Dark Depths. So we can create a 20/20 in our opponent's end step. And that might be enough to win the game for us. Or force some action from our opponent in a way they don't necessarily like. I don't believe our opponent is playing lots of blue cards. I believe the blue mana in their deck was there purely for Show and Tell. Because we saw the bad lands and then we saw the rest of the cards they played and they're all classic black-red reanimate cards. And I'm curious what our opponent kept. They mulligan quite deep, so maybe they mulligan to someone that just needed one more mana source to be bananas. I guess that was the case. Alright, we finished with a nice 4-1. Not a bad start to old December. Let's get right into the list and talk about it, because obviously you know I love to ramble on about Turbodepths. So, the main things we were testing today were... We're still testing this exploration package. I've been playing it for about a month now, and it's been pretty good most of the time. And I think today it showed that one of the times we drew it, it was useless, but the card that's normally in that slot of Elvish Spirit Guide would have also been useless. So it's not as if there was any real difference. And there was one game we had where if we'd have been able to keep one more card in our hand, the exploration would have been great, but we didn't, so we had to throw it back. And then also there was the game where we had exploration, and if it was just a source of green mana, we would have won. So the exploration not shining today, to be honest. The other card we were testing, I'm going to pull it out here so we can see it better, was the Legolas's Quick Reflexes. And this was pretty good today, right? There were definitely times where it was a little bit clunky and was causing us to have more mana available and stuff like that. But for the most part, this felt pretty reasonable. We definitely had a game where... So we had a game where we used it to kill our opponent's blocker. Now, the chance of us winning that game already were very high. I don't think we were going to be losing that game, even if they managed to block that one turn. I think we had a Not of This World as well in our hand. It just felt like a little bit of overkill, if I'm being honest. But we had definitely had ways of protecting our creature with it, and it was nice. But again, it's slightly more intensive on your mana, which is a very real thing. That's why I put one in the main and then the others in the board. We didn't play against the sort of slow control matchups, which is where I really want to test it out and see if it's a better option than trying to life them alone. We did have a game where, I think that the one round we lost was where we drew Legolas's Quick Reflexes, but if it was a life them alone, we win that game instead against the Death and Taxes. Normally, Death and Taxes is a pretty good matchup because their deck's quite slow and they only interact. They interact through two ways basically. They have Wasteland, which we have covered. We play around Wasteland a lot. If you can't play around Wasteland, don't know how to play around Wasteland, this is the deck to learn how to do that. Like, the whole deck is built to be able to play around it in a reasonable fashion. We have redundant answers for it in Boseiju, Ghost Quarter, and obviously the Pithing Needles, and Crop Rotation as well, which can sort of slide around it in sneaky ways. But then they also have the Solitudes and whatever they get off their vial on 3, which is usually Skyclave or Flickerwisp. So they do have a reasonable amount of answers. And especially post-board, they can sort of cut out a lot of the dead weight. But again, if they're a Yorion, they're less likely to find it, so you're not having to deal with as many things because they have more cards in their library. So I think, like I said, if we'd have had the Life from Malone, we would be in a better spot there because we'd have just been able to recur all of our lands and just keep making 2020s. And eventually, one of them's going to stick and we're going to be on like 60 life and we're just going to crush our opponent. Now, that's mainly because that deck doesn't really have Graveyard Hate to interact with us. Whereas the control decks, they are bringing in the Surgical Extractions in this matchup, which means that Life from Loam isn't very good against that. And the control matchups are a lot more popular than Death and Taxes right now. So I think it is probably right to keep testing this Legolas's Quick Reflexes and see how this works in regards to the control matchups. And it's still going to be fine against Death and Taxes sometimes. They did have quite a heavy mana denial draw that kind of ruined us a little bit. But yeah, I'm pretty much liking this configuration. We saw the sudden shock and why I think this card is good in this particular build. And we just showed that expertly. We just used our opponent's own card as our combo piece. So pretty happy about that. I think next time I play this deck, what I might try is trimming one exploration for one more actual mana source. So we might be running possibly a basic land. Because I keep getting in these situations where I want to Ghost Quarter myself, or where our opponent like Boseijus us or something, and I think maybe it'd be nice, or Field of Ruin, maybe it'd be nice to have a basic. But again, I think if we're trying to streamline the deck to doing what it's doing, maybe we cut an exploration in favour of another City of Brass. That is something I'm interested in thinking about. Alternatively, we could try a single Yawgmoth, which ups our count of the lands that let us do uncounterable turn 3. Detsu just playing Depths, Stage, and Urborg or Yawgmoth. So maybe I'll play the Yawgmoth, or maybe I'll play the second City of Brass. Those are the sort of options I'm mulling over in my head at the moment, to go slightly down on exploration. I do like the exploration. It has been great for us at times. But there's this sort of weird balancing act where whenever you mulligan, exploration is the card that goes, because if you're on fewer resources, the exploration is worse, whereas an actual land there would be better, or a mana source. So I think just having a land is better than having an Elvish Spirit Guide, because a lot of the times we do just actually want lands, and Elvish Spirit Guide doesn't give you the mana to accelerate out the Hexmage, but if we're running Quick Reflexes, maybe having an additional green source that we can fire off instant speed would be more useful. So I'm going to have to consider that one and see what comes up. We will be playing this deck later on in December, but what I can tell you is most of the time we're going to be playing some really wacky Dark Depths based decks. So you can expect to see some pretty exciting stuff this month. If you like 2020s, make sure you like and subscribe because you don't want to miss any of these. What I will say though is on the Wednesdays, I'm still going to be doing the midweek meta slot. So that's going to be, you know, whatever's been winning the tournament before, because there's lots of big tournaments around at the time. So I want to make sure that we are keeping up with that feature. So there may not be Dark Depths decks on the Wednesdays, but maybe you'll enjoy a little break before descending into the madness of the realm of 2020s. I do love me some MARIT LAGE'S. Alright, I think we are done for today, so I hope you enjoyed this one, and I hope you are looking forward to the rest of December. If you have any weird and wonderful Dark Depths decks, please just send them my way. Like, I've got a few slots to fill, and maybe, you know, maybe I don't play it, but I'll have a look at it. It might inform some decks I've already got in the queue, or whatever. And if you have a Dark Depths deck that you really want to see played for December, and you're, like, adamant that you want to see it played, by all means reach out and we can do a donation deck for you, and sort that out. But, yep, here's the place to be for 2020s, and I am done for today. So thank you so much for watching and joining me on the first day of December. Goodbye.